Hello. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and now this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you guys the inside scoop of what vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. Plus, I'll give you the full download of what's going on behind the scenes at Veggies Abroad. So, hitting the 10th episode is a semi-big deal. Well, at least to me. 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. You heard that correctly. 3 episodes. Of the remaining 10%, 90% don't make it to episode 20. So I am halfway there to being part of the elite 1% of podcast survivors. I bet you didn't realize that there's a podcast version of Survivor out there. But the reality is that running a podcast starts out kind of fun. It's a new thing with new bells and whistles to mess with. But then after a couple episodes, the fun starts to wear off and you're like, oh, good Lord, this is a lot of work. It's part of the reason I was reluctant to start it in the first place. My to-do list grows like a fungus and my kitty assistants take way too many naps. I wasn't sure that I could make it work, but I also know that this is a great way for all of you to really hear what people and places are doing to make travel more vegan and eco-friendly. And that's really important to me and my mission. So I made it work. Plus, I wrangled Jim over at the Bloody Vegans to help me. And by help, I mean do most of the heavy lifting. So if you've been enjoying this podcast, this is important. Please give it a rating and hit that follow button. Those little stars might not seem like a big deal, but they tell the podcast overlords what people think is worthwhile. And if it thinks that this is worthwhile, then that means we can reach a larger audience with our plant-filled message. If you do it, it takes 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds, and I'd really appreciate it. Those of you who have been listening from the start might have noticed that this is an extra episode this month. Yay for you, but don't get used to it. Sorry, not sorry. Last week's Why Travel with Veggies Abroad episode was an added bonus for the month. I thought it was really important to talk about why our tours and travel experiences are different, because at the end of the day, you've got a mega ton of choices when it comes to deciding where and with whom you're going to travel. It's my goal to make you realize that where you spend your dollars when you travel matters, and travel can be a form of activism. Every time you spend money with a company, you're sending them a message that the public wants more of whatever they're selling. This can translate into more companies not finding ways to lower their footprint, more massive ships destroying our oceans, and the promotion of unethical activities with wildlife and people. This doesn't just impact the quality of your holiday, it impacts the community and the environment that call these places home. So, whether or not you choose to travel with us, I really hope that you will choose to travel more consciously and responsibly. One last important housekeeping note: if you've got burning travel questions, make sure you send them to me. I am still planning to do an episode dedicated or partially dedicated to your traveling woes. It can be anything from food options to luggage and beyond. Some of the questions I might also use to dive deeper into during one of our special subscribers-only travel webinars. If you're not familiar with those, then you need to join our newsletter to find out more. And the link to do that is in the show notes. Okay, so let's move on to today's episode, which is another destination focus, similar to the chat that I had with Meredith Marin about Aruba. We're going to focus on South Florida. Over the years, specific cities like Miami have become really vegan friendly, and part of that credit goes to today's guest, who's been hard at work to make South Florida a global hotspot for veganism through his organization, SoFlo. Sean Russell is a content creator, author, and marketing consultant with over 26 years of professional experience, having worked with MTV, ABC, NBC, and the Miami Marlins. He dedicated over 14 years of his life to education, serving as a teacher and eventually the district webmaster for Broward County Public Schools. Presently, Sean serves as a senior producer with Lazarus Media and is the founder of SoFlo Vegans. With that, let's get over to the interview. Hi, Sean. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I don't know that there's anyone better to talk about South Florida than you. So it is an honor to have you. So for those who are unfamiliar with your work with SoFlo Vegans and your latest venture with Vegans Explore, can you share a little bit about both organizations and your overall mission?
Of course, of course. So my vegan journey started in 2008, which led me fast forwarding to discovering a community around my lifestyle, because that's my background in building communities and using media together. So I started SoFlo Vegans. I guess the seeds were started around 2014, but didn't officially launch until 2017. And our mission is to make South Florida a global hotspot for veganism. And the reason why that's an important mission for me is because I lived in South Florida my entire life, going on 41 years now. And I know how hard of a market it is to crack. It's everyone who doesn't live in South Florida has one impression of it, and people who live in South Florida have another. And somewhere in between is the truth. But from my perspective, it is an island that wants to be a major metropolitan city. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that, I mean that in the best of ways. Because if you come here, there's a very laid back sort of vibe to it. But then you have people who are used to New York and Chicago and LA who are clashing at the same time. So it's this weird mixture where there's so much that's going on, but the locals are slow to adopt certain things, which makes it a harder market to launch something into. So you have a lot of people who are coming from outside who shut up shop and then leave. And it kind of leaves the locals kind of like, okay, what do we do with the next thing? I said all that to say that's why our mission is to make South Florida a global hotspot for veganism, because if we could do it with that sort of pressure on us, it can happen anywhere. So our last 6 years, I've been doing that with SoFlo Vegans and throwing things against the wall, seeing what sticks and what doesn't stick. And I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to test this out in other markets. So recently I relocated to Orlando to try out to see if the SoFlo Vegans model that I've put together works. And so far it's been showing a lot of traction. And that is Vegans Explore. Vegans Explore is taking what we've done in South Florida for the last 6-7 years and trying it out in other markets. 2022, I think around the time that I first met you, is really how I started doing some research and development for Vegans Explore. So I traveled to Europe, I traveled to Hawaii, all these different places just to see what their communities are like, gathered the information, went back into the cave, and now it's 2024. We are pushing it out to the world and
Yay!
Doing a lot of really cool things with it. And I'm happy to say this is probably the first podcast that I'm on that I really get to talk about the evolution of Vegans Explore.
That's awesome. I feel very special for that. So when you talk about creating a community, what does that really mean? What makes up this community? What could people expect to find within it?
So there's a lot of different parts of the community. One is, how do we keep people active around a common cause? How do we get them activated and excited and supporting local businesses and nonprofits, creating the mechanism? That's why I've integrated media content in there, because we're essentially chronicling what's going on in our community for people who are living in it and people who are visiting, which also ties to South Florida. So that's what I see as community. Now, there are other layers and levels to community that I will eventually get to once we establish that first part, like actually investing in real estate. So you have property where people can build and gather and come together and not have to worry about rent hikes and losing the property once people start getting excited about what you have to do. It's about making sure that anyone who is supporting the vegan space is going to be in an economic situation to flourish. Keeping that dollar circulating within the community so people can come and invest and grow and be prosperous. So that's when I think community, that's my 10-point plan. But the first point is to get the community activated, get them excited, get them knowing about what's going on, and then just growing that and having that grassroots movement and giving people the opportunity if they want to invest and participate, giving them that vehicle and that doorway to walk through to be able to do that. So that's what community means for me.
I think this is something probably many communities around the U.S. could benefit from, because as we have all seen, there are so many vegan businesses that are struggling and continue struggling coming out of the pandemic and, just having to function in life. It is difficult to have a business that remains ethical and remains true to people's values. I can't tell you the amount of times I have to clear out things from my guides of places that close or places that say they need more support, and it breaks my heart. I was just updating something for Toronto, and I think I had to pull out like 6 different restaurants.
Wow.
And I was thinking, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Although the Toronto vegan scene is quite extensive, it still hurts to have to clear out 6 of them, because that's 6 people that, maybe if they just had a little bit more support or a little bit more of something, I don't know. Running a business is really, really difficult, as you know.
It's difficult. And it's funny, I hear these war stories from a lot of community organizers and influencers or people who live in these different cities. And I feel like a lot of us think from these conversations that it's unique to your city, and it's not. Like, to your point, I went to London and I'm sitting on hours of content that I haven't put out, and I'm like, all right, let's put together the list of what they're shut down. Oh, they're shut down. Oh, wow, they're shut. So it's like, and we're experiencing it in South Florida. I'm just happy the fact that I feel like for everyone that shuts down to show up over time. And it sucks to know these people, having done this for 7 years. It's like, it's not just hey, this thing pops up, let me post it. I'm speaking to them. I'm, having conversations. I'm seeing them on a frequent basis, and to see them, because here's the reality, folks, when these businesses shut down, a lot of times it's not just like, okay, let's go find another restaurant. Like you said, these are families. These are people who have to give up on their dreams for the most part and go find a 9-to-5, or if even that, maybe it's worse than that. So, and the answer is, in reality, being so deep in the community aspect, everything, the answer isn't just go out and support a vegan business. I mean, it's way more nuanced than that. It's understanding how everything works, how everything's interconnected. I have people on message boards sometimes saying, why are you supporting non-vegan businesses? You surely don't support vegan business. It's all about supply and demand. If you raise the amount of interest in vegan foods, even like with things like Burger King and all these places, what it does, and the other piece of it, like the festivals and a lot of these restaurants, it's not 100% of the vegan businesses. It's not 100% of vegans that are supporting these places. A lot of times it's like 70-30, if even, of non-vegan supporting these, or flexitarians, if you want to call them. So being able to expose them to plant-based options in places where they go to every day, all that's going to do is pique their curiosity. Okay, this is good. And then what's going to happen? Hey, Rebecca, I was just at Taco Bell. Did you know that they have a thing that you can eat there now? What did you think of it? That's good. But you know what I like better? I like the vegan taco, on 44th and LaGuardia or whatever. I'm like, oh, the vegan taco? It's totally made of street. The vegan taco. Oh, that's
good.
That's awesome. Where do they have there? So now you have a conversation starter. You can say, oh, you like that? Try this. But if they didn't have that initial motivation to even bring it up, they're more than likely not going to find the vegan taco on 46 and LaGuardia. But they may find they might find vegan tacos. Yay. New franchise idea.
We're all going to search for that now at 46 in LaGuardia.
Now they have the ability to be interested and become a flexitarian, to start asking questions.
Yep.
So that's why I'm supporting anything when it comes to vegan options. Now, the other part to that is how I want to devote my time to helping the businesses grow. Yes, my emphasis and my attention will be focused on 100% vegan businesses, only because I know how hard it is to make that decision as a business owner and how much more attention you need that. So my attention will always go to those businesses first. But as far as having options, bring it on. That's why London and all these places are number one, not because they have a lot of vegan restaurants, because you can find vegan options in almost any restaurant, I should say fast food chain out there.
Yeah, it's really uncommon to go into some of those cities and not find a vegan option or multiple vegan options on menus. It's almost like there's, vegan police going through and checking menus and like giving out demerits if they don't have it. It's very plentiful, and that's how it should be as we evolve and learn about the impacts of the animal agriculture industry. So if a visitor is coming to South Florida, are there things that they could find using SoFlo or Vegans Explore? How could those two organizations help somebody?
Yeah, so the best way for you to find out what to eat and what to have is to go to our Instagram or go to our TikTok. We have hundreds, no exaggeration, hundreds of videos of restaurants and festivals, and you can visually see what the food looks like and get a taste of what you can expect from our platform. But we also have guides that we're releasing as well that is, some of you may be too young to remember the yellow pages, but I'm bringing it back, baby. Bringing it back. So
I like the vegan version of that.
So the idea is like you go to these cities and, we're launching with South Florida first, but we're doing Central Florida and North Florida and all these different Atlanta and North Carolina, working our way through the entire world where you can go, you can get these magazines, these digests, and not only see the restaurants, but see the vendors that are in the locations, the service providers, and it's a living document, so it's always upgraded. It's there. We sell it for $4.99 only because it's a fundraiser for us, allows us to do the things that we're doing. But we also give $1 for each sale to a nonprofit organization. And the other piece to it as well, we have memberships, which is another way we sustain our community. And they're $10 a month, but are $95 for the year. But we also give a portion of the yearly subscription to nonprofits as well. But the reason I'm mentioning the subscription is because all of the guides that we'll create will be part of the subscription. So, our goal is just to make it a no-brainer for all the things that we do so people support and we can grow and eventually get to some of the things that I mentioned earlier in terms of what I feel community building should be.
Awesome. Vegan yellow pages. That is a good one. I really like that. It has a very nice ring to it. So you've been able to grow a long list of supporters, both vegan and non-vegan, to bolster your missions for both organizations. Was it difficult to get places to see your vision in the beginning?
Yes. I want to say it wasn't, but it was. And I would say only because all of it's in here. And I have a way of overcomplicating things. So a lot of times people are like nodding their head. Yeah, I like this. But I could just tell they have that glazed over look that I see a lot of times when I'm speaking to people. So I've learned to simplify the message over the years, and it helps when you have stuff to show with what you're saying. So I would say that made it a lot easier. But I would say what also made it easier is just my background in general. I've had a background in building communities, been doing it for the last 27 years. And so that's helped me in terms of building strategic partnerships. I would say that's one of the skill sets that I have that I'm really proud of. So being able to get people on board is easy. the hard part is clarifying the vision, getting it out there. But what's supported is having done this for the last 6 years. I have a lot of visual proof of what I'm saying and what I want to do, what I'm doing rather. So that makes it a lot easier, especially with Vegans Explore, which is the reason why I feel it's time for me to push it out there.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Do you think places were reluctant because of the vegan part of it in the very beginning, or were businesses always very interested in that?
I feel it's a bit about the same, because it really all depends on when you're reaching out. Because a lot of times you have these keystones, and usually they take the form of a documentary that you see a huge influx of the vegan movement. You had it with Forks Over Knives, with Cowspiracy, What the Health, Game Changers. Those were the big tent poles that brought in a lot of new vegans. And we came in around the time of, I want to say, Cowspiracy, if we're looking at 2016, 2017. And then after that, it was like bomb, bomb, bomb. So that helped in getting people interested because it was on their radar and they were looking for it. So that helped us out. So I wouldn't say it was hard to get them to adopt the vegan. I will say it's been a lot easier for people to use the term vegan now than when we first started. It was a big conversation about plant-based. We should use plant-based. I feel like that has lessened a little bit. You still hear it from every now and again, but I think the brands that are winning are the ones that are fully using the term vegan. Take Slutty Vegan, for example. It's like you can't shy away from the term vegan, and to have Slutty in there,
no,
I feel.
Yeah, she embraced it fully.
And I think that's what it is. We're living in an era, especially 2024. I feel like it's disclosure time, where it's like, show who you are, stop hiding, and if you're hiding, we're gonna know. We're gonna find out. We're not gonna support you as hard as if you just showed up as who you are. And I feel like that's always a winning recipe, and you never lose until you quit.
When you first started the organization versus now, thinking back, have things grown in a way that you didn't expect? Was this always kind of your trajectory? Has this gone beyond your initial expectations?
So what I've noticed is things have a way of going in a circle. And I've done this enough time to say that this is a pattern. I've created an organization my first organization was wrestling, like a role-playing wrestling federation. My second one was anime and manga. My third was music. My fourth was education. And this is now my fifth generation of creating a community and business and media network and vegan space. Now, the difference between all of those and what I'm doing now is those were interests. This is my lifestyle. So I feel like those were building blocks to me creating what I have now. And yeah, what I've noticed is that things go in cycles. So to say things are easier or better or whatever it's all in hindsight, because in reality, about 3 to 4 years, I want to say, is when things either crap or get off the pot sort of situation. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm actually stretching it to 6, 7 years, where it's like, okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to start over again. I'm going to need to start over again, because how that actually looks is a lot of the businesses that I've built relationships with from the start, I don't want to say a lot, but a good handful are no longer there. So what ends up happening? Year 3, 4, I knew a bunch of businesses come in, and I got to start all over again and build those relationships. So the reason why I'm doing Vegans Explore is because my goal isn't to just make South Florida a global hotspot for veganism. That's the canary in the coal mine. It's if I can see that it's bubbling and moving and things are working here, I can make it happen anywhere. And then now with Vegans Explore, if I'm in Poughkeepsie, or give me a city, whatever,
Poughkeepsie, yeah, that's a fun one.
And I know I can make it happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's my goal, to keep showing that this is a proof of concept that works. Instead of me starting from scratch over again in South Florida, I want to start from scratch in Atlanta. I want to start from scratch in Asheville and all these different, Toronto and all these different places. So that way, collectively, all of that work can be like the Borg, where it's just like this one being that is taking these experiences. And what better way to have a pulse on what's happening in the vegan world than to actually be in the vegan world? And that's the idea of Vegans Explore.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over, to explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today. Awesome. Well, before we dive into one South Florida city specifically, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience about SoFlo or Vegans Explore?
I mean, basically, no, let's dive into it. I mean, I would say just visit, check us out. The best way to get a taste of us is to go on our Instagram. Instagram is probably our most active, but then TikTok as well is probably close behind, where we do more YouTube stuff. We have podcasts that we're launching. I have launched, so I've had the SoFlo Vegans podcast since 2018. Our first guest was Earthling Ed. We were super fortunate to land him as a guest.
That's an amazing first guest.
And then our second guest was Ingrid Newkirk from PETA. So
wow.
it was kind of a hard bar to keep up with, but we've had some really amazing guests on since. And so that's one of our podcasts. We just launched another one called Vegans Who Lift, and I'm producing that, and that is with Brooke Sellers, Miss Meatless Muscle, and John Thomas, the bodybuilding vegan. And it's a deep dive into veganism and bodybuilding. It's for anyone that says you can't be vegan because you're going to die from a protein deficiency, the podcast. It's literally like going behind the scenes and talking about these high-performing physical human beings and how they're able to do it solely on plants. I want to say it's the first of its kind, just to base the fact that you can get a snippet of a female bodybuilder and a male bodybuilder, and just their experiences, as well as the mix of what Vegans Explore brings to the table. So that launched last week, and you guys should check that out. And then our final, for now, podcast that we're going to launch probably in 2 weeks is called for whenever you listen to this, might be out, the Pre-Vegans podcast, and that is covering everybody else. That is literally 97% of the population out there who are not fully ethical vegans. This is speaking to them. And it's also speaking to those 3%, because I know for me, speaking for myself, I run into issues just trying to compartmentalize all this information to share with people who ask. So basically, this is giving you those tips. It's focusing on maybe one topic per episode. It's taking clips from our podcast, from all these experts that we've had on. So that way you take these deep dives into these topics so you can walk out with a little bit more information on your utility belt.
You really have your hands in just about everything vegan related, period.
That is the plan.
You're like the vegan mastermind. You're growing your own vegan empire down there. So we will dive into Miami. Can you share with the listeners, if in case they have not been to Miami lately, what the vegan scene is like? And have you noticed any significant changes or trends in the recent last few years?
Yes, so I have. It's Miami, I want to say over the last couple of years has been pretty steady. We are really good with festivals. We have a lot of events happening throughout the year. And we also have some really good restaurants out here, some franchises that I think are slept on. For example, well, not so much now because they started to spread, but Planta. Many of your listeners may be familiar with Planta, but many might not know that the first Planta location in the United States was in South Beach. And it was from there that they launched, and now they're in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and New York, and all these different places. So, I feel like them being able to, going back to what I was saying, them being able to be successful down here is a really good indicator of them being able to be successful other places. We have other good spots that are franchising out. The Sobe Vegan, which, recently redid their whole menu. So that was a huge risk on their part, and they're doing well as well. So there's other places out here. Love Life Cafe is a big one that I like to go to. It's just a nice vibe. They have some of the best sushi I've had, vegan sushi I've had. By the way, everything I'm saying is vegan. So if I say burgers and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm not going to keep saying vegan. So yeah, then we have markets as well. We've got the Yellow Green Farmers Market, which is a mix of both vegan and non-vegan, but you have so many vegan businesses that have gotten their start there that are building and have really good followings. You have the Coconut Grove Farmers Market, which is like 99.9% vegan. The 1% is vegetarian. So you may have like a place that has honey. I think that's probably the only thing I've seen outside of vegan, and there's probably like 20 vegan spots. You can go every Saturday and enjoy food there. And then you have the events that are happening. So there's just so much going on in Miami. Like I can sit here and rattle off every single vegan restaurant. But, those are the ones that pop immediately into my head. And yeah, I definitely recommend you come out to Miami. If anything, just shoot us a message on SoFlo Vegan. Say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I would love to find out what to do, and I'll send you some good resources and links.
Oh, that's awesome. It's always so nice to have a local tell you things than to read it in Eater Miami or the Miami Tribune or whatever else. When you have someone that is vegan and lives there and, literally eats and breathes the lifestyle, it makes all the difference and can really make or break a trip to have that kind of resource. So thank you for offering that. Over the last few years, do you feel like Miami is becoming more vegan friendly, or is it kind of just stayed the same?
I would say it's become more No, it's definitely...
I didn't want to say or gotten worse, but I guess I have to add that to balance it out.
It's amazing. No, it's there's definitely challenges that come with everything, but I would say it's definitely gotten better and improved over the years. You see more restaurants pop open. You see food halls show up. Things like Smorgasburg from New York came down here, and they have a couple of options in there. So I would say there's a lot more adoption for vegan options. So it's definitely gotten better.
Are more restaurants becoming vegan friendly and adding menus, or is that kind of a slow boat?
Yes, I would say more have started adopting, obviously the low-hanging fruit. I guess you could say that. It would be like the impossible and the beyond.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it? No, it's a plan. The impossible and the beyond. So that's allowed a lot more restaurants to at least have some options available. And then you have companies like Greenhouse Foods, which is a local company one of our partners who create a simpler protein, plant-based protein that could be used in and instead of the Impossible, because I know there's a lot of people even within the movement who are shying away from those. And it's made from like 3 ingredients, and they supply a lot of restaurants, vegan and non-vegan, in the community as well. So that's opened up a lot of options in conjunction with restaurants using Impossible and beyond.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I see that quite a bit. I mean, I feel like you said, the low hanging fruit, to add that is just a really easy thing for restaurants to do. If you're gonna do anything, like just add it. It's not a difficult addition to add to your menu. Your chef doesn't have to learn new skills or come up with new I don't know, sauces or whatever else for it. You just add the stuff or add the stupid burger and be done with it. For God's sakes, I feel like don't fight it. Don't fight it.
Especially if you already make burgers, all you're literally doing is just replacing the patty and put everything else on there. You have reach out to me if you need a good source for vegan cheese. I feel like it's just so simple. Just
right.
Just have a couple. They have a long shelf life because it's not pasteurized cow pus or whatever it is. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's actual plants. It always, by the way, it always like boggles my mind. I'm vegan for compassion, by the way, but I'm just teasing a little bit right here. Right. How, especially let me go with my family. It's like you say you're eating plants, and it's almost like you're eating. I'm having something that's vegan. And it's almost like, ugh.
I know, right?
Like, you realize what you're eating, like animal flesh, and like I'm fine. I'm not fine with you eating it, but I'm not gonna like come at you. But just the reaction, and I even see it with like organic food. Like, oh, you're having organic ketchup? Like, what universe am I living in? Do you realize?
Exactly.
Okay, quick aside.
That's things to poke at, right?
I'm off of it now.
No, I am going to assume that a lot of listeners probably can feel your pain with that when people poke at stuff and then you're like, did you even consider what's on your plate and where that came from and how it got there and what it's made with? No, you absolutely didn't. So leave my organic ketchup alone, for God's sakes. Oh my gosh. So we talked a little bit about restaurants and some of your favorites you mentioned. But what about if someone has a sweet tooth? Do you have favorite like bakeries or ice cream places, chocolate places, anything like that?
Yes, I do have a few. And we're talking Miami now. So I would say there's a French bakery, vegan French bakery.
I know it, yeah.
Called well, I wanted to say it only because there are not a lot of them. I think they're probably one of the first. I think they tout that they're one of the first that has amazing croissants, and they just start launching some donuts and macaroons. Yeah, I think that's what they call it. The little colorful things.
Yeah. Yep.
They're really good. They're called Les Artisans. So definitely check them out if you're in Miami. If you want some vegan ice cream or gelato, they got V Gelato in Wynwood, which is amazing. Like everyone who's ever had it is like best ice cream they've ever had. I even had some non-vegans say that. So once again, we're talking Miami here. We have the Chocolate Chip Bakery, which is awesome as well. They have an assortment of different types of food. So those are the ones that come off the top of my head. And then, of course, there's some other ones like Courtney's Cookies that are like at the Coconut Grove Farmers Market, and a few other offshoots that come off that may pop into my head later. But those are the ones that pop into my head. Oh, we have Pamela Wasabi, who does cookies, and they're on stores all over the place. So there's a lot of great options in Miami.
The first place, or maybe it wasn't the very, very first, but one of the first places when I was last down in Miami that I went to was Les Artisans. And I remember when I walked in, I was like, this cannot be all vegan. Everything is so beautiful and so amazing. I looked online again. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's all vegan. And I remember asking the girl, and she must get asked this all the time. She looked at me like, you're an absolute idiot. Yeah, of course, everything's vegan. It's really, it's stunning. Stunning, tasty, two thumbs way up for that place for sure. So beyond food, are there shops that places or people could check out, like clothing shops that are vegan friendly?
Oh, yeah, you put me on the spot here. Clothing shops. Clothing shops.
I know that one's a difficult one.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm super simple. Like, I'll wear the same thing for 15 years, 20 years. There's a phase in my life, and you can watch the videos where I literally wore like the same outfit. Of course, it was clean, but the same outfit every day on my Steve Jobs thing. So I'm not a big clothing person, but I know there are a lot of clothing companies that are at the farmers markets and things of that nature. None of them come off the top of the mind right now.
I think the Coconut Grove Farmers Market, I mean, that is a really unique place for vegans to go and check out. I was so surprised that it had been mostly plant-based for like over 40 years. And there was a diverse showing of vendors there. I
have one, green vegan bags.
Oh.
So have you heard of them? Okay, so but what she does is she finds all of the vegan purses that are out there, and she puts them together in one place. And she's based out of South Florida, so it's an online boutique.
That's okay.
But it's Miami, South Florida, homegrown. So there you go.
Awesome. You can never have too many bags. And then on the sanctuary side of things, you guys have a really unique place it's a little outside of the downtown Miami space, but Aguacate is a really cute animal sanctuary, but they do a whole lot more there as well. And then I think they're fully vegan, correct?
100% vegans, Danae. Everything that they're doing out there is amazing. Their food is great as well. See, I knew there's places I left off my list. So that's actually a destination. So like if you're in Miami, put that on your list because it is a combination event space, outdoor event space, food hall. You can have an assortment of food there, and it's a full-blown animal sanctuary. So they rehabilitate, they have forever homes for animals that have been rescued. They work really closely with the rescue community down here in South Florida. The owners are vegan, so it's not like a place that's trying to capitalize off of they're 100% committed to the cause and do a lot of support for organizations that are out there. So if there's one place, destination, I would say check them out, especially if you're vegan for the animals. You're going to get the full experience.
It's a really, really unique place. I really enjoyed doing it. It took me, so actually a funny side story with that. I Ubered out to it from downtown Miami, and I put the address in. It said Aguacate, seemed fine. And then the driver stops and he was like, "Are you supposed to be here?" And where here was like somebody's home. And I was like, no, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I don't exactly know where I'm supposed to be, but this is definitely not it. So I took out my phone and I'm mapping it. And so then I'm giving him directions. And meanwhile, because the app then recognized that I didn't get dropped off, it's sending messages to my husband that the car had gone like off the route. So then he's texting me, "Are you okay? Where are you?" But I did finally make it, and it was absolutely worth it. On the way back, I did take the bus, and that was also another adventure because it was just a really, really long bus ride. But I made it exactly where I needed to be, and I didn't end up in someone else's home.
Wow, you're brave taking public transportation to Miami. That's awesome. I say that in jest.
The bus was a little bit hit or miss, but you're what was it, above ground like train that worked fine. Like that was like worked on time. I didn't have any issues with it. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I thought that worked well. And
for clarity, before I start getting hate mail from my Miami folks, I say that only because it's not like LA or not LA. It's not like New York or Chicago where you can like jump on. Not trains are mad at me now. Where you could where you could jump on it and like easily get off on stops like this. It's like we're really spread out, so you got to have a lot of trust when you jump on that you know where you're going.
Yes, yeah, I highly recommend using Google Maps if you want to plan out your transit. And then it is only available like in certain areas, and then you kind of need to pepper the bus in there as well. Or I walked a ton, and then of course Uber is always readily available, of course.
And you got the weather, so you're good there.
Yes. Yeah, especially during certain times of the year. Maybe not the middle of the summer. I don't know if I would enjoy that.
Yeah, we call it Florida weather. It's like you're literally walking in a rainstorm, and then you can see the sunshine. Like you can step in and out of it. Like, oh, it's dry, wet, dry, wet. It's crazy.
It's so lovely. So as we wrap up our chat, are there any upcoming events or initiatives that listeners should know about that SoFlo or Vegans Explore is doing that maybe they need to pencil into their calendars?
Yeah, so we were doing a global tour. So we're going to be at a lot of events around the country over the next couple of months. Depending on when this comes out, we'll have done Vegan Block Party in Orlando, which would be their first one. We just did Vegan Food Festival in Orlando from the Orlando Bearded Vegan. And, there's just so much Vegan Street Party. These are all things that are just in Florida. But there's other events that we're looking to Veg Fest Expos, all the events that they have going on. Definitely check them out. They have like 8 to 10 events a year in the southeastern area. So we love working with them. Looking to come out to Europe again and do some things with some of the events they have out there. So events wise, just check out Vegans Explore to see where we're going to be. Podcast, already talked about that earlier, so you can check those out. And then just all the various initiatives that we have. Our goal is to make your lives easy. Like if there's this tag for Vegan Explorer, making your life easy. Because I know how difficult it is to find all these resources, and then you find a resource, and is it going to be updated? Is it even going to be around a month from now? So everything we're doing is focused on longevity and building a team and infrastructure so that way you don't have to keep searching for something new every 3 to 4 years.
Very nice. I really like that tagline, and I will take anything that will make my life easier. So my last question for you, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, all expenses are paid, where would you go and why?
Easy question. It's been this way since high school, Japan. That's number one on my list of places to go. And it's because when I was in high school, I was, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I had a whole community, not when I was in high school, but I had a whole community on Japanese animation and in comics. So I was really deep into the culture in high school. I took 2 years of Japanese. So I've just always been fascinated with the Japanese culture. And I just would love to see experience it for myself. Because the other piece to it is you watch thousands of hours worth of anime and you're literally watching Japan. These slice of life shows, they're going to high school, you hear the bell, you hear the thing. I want to feel that. I want to experience that. And there's no other place other than probably the United States, but I've been to pretty much all the places I wanted to be, where you feel like you've already been there. And then at the same time, I would love to see what their vegan scene is like. I have no clue what that looks like. So there will be a lot of exploration there for me to do.
Yeah, absolutely. When you make it, then we'll want to hear all about what the vegan scene was like in your experience. You'll have to come back and share all of that.
Oh, yeah, count me in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing how SoFlo and Vegan Explore continues to grow. And I know our listeners will as well.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.